Welcome back, fossil fanatics, to another prehistoric plunge here on Fossilized Facts. Today we're cracking open one of the biggest questions in paleontology. What exactly is a fossil? Is it just a dusty old bone in a museum? A seashell and stone? Dino poop turned to rock? Well, spoiler alert, it is yes, and hilariously yes. We're diving into the ancient, the buried, and the beautifully preserved to uncover the different types of fossils, how they form, what they tell us, and why they are some of Earth's best kept secrets. So grab your goggles and dust off your curiosity, and let's dig into the deep time treasure chest that is fossilization. Fossils are basically Mother Nature's time capsules, little clues from the past that got buried, squished, and sometimes even polished by the Earth over millions of years. They are the preserved remains, impressions, or traces of ancient life that got caught in the act of existing, frozen in time like a prehistoric snapshot. Some fossils are so tiny that they could ride on an ant's back, like insects trapped in amber, while others are so huge they'd take a crane and a team of scientists just to move one bone. Looking at you, Titanosaurus. These ancient leftovers aren't just cool, they're a goldmine of information, helping us piece together the wildest mystery story ever told, the history of life on Earth. Fossils come in all shapes and sizes. Bones, teeth, shell, footprints, and even fossilized poop, which, yes, has a fancy name. Coprolite. Coprolite is a paleontologist's dream. It can tell us facts about dino diets, allowing us to get a better understanding of who is eating what for lunch 100 million years ago. That's basically a prehistoric menu carved in stone. Without fossils, we'd never know that the dinosaurs ruled the planet, that whale ancestors once had legs, or that ferns once grew tall as apartment buildings. Every fossil is like a puzzle piece in Earth's enormous, messy, million-piece jigsaw, and we're still missing most of the corners. Not everything fossilizes, the Earth plays favorites. Tough stuff like bones and shells stick around, while soft tissue like skin, feathers, and internal organs usually decay faster than you could say paleontologist. Only under absolutely perfect conditions, like being buried quickly with no oxygen and just the right minerals, or being sealed in amber so those delicate bits can be preserved. Even then, fossils don't always make it to a museum. Erosion, floods, earthquakes, curious critters, including humans with shovels and a strong sense of adventure, can mess with them. Still, enough survive to give us a peek behind nature's curtain. So how exactly does a dinosaur bone become a rock-solid relic? Let's dig into Earth's secret fossil-making recipe. There's more than one way to make a fossil, and trust me, they're pretty rockin'. If you've ever wondered how a squishy living dinosaur turned into a rock-hard museum piece, buckle up. We're about to take a wild ride through time, mud, and minerals. It's called permineralization, and it's one of the Earth's oldest magic tricks. A way to preserve skeletal fossils indefinitely. All you need is water, minerals, and we mean a lot of time. Let's say a dinosaur, let's call her Dottie the Triceratops, has lived a good fern-filled life. She's lucky, a flood or landslide buries her quickly in mud or sand, tucking her away, creating a natural cocoon around the dinosaur. This is super important. Without a fast burial, nature's cleanup crew, think scavengers, bacteria, and weather, would take her remains apart before fossilization could even start. Now here's where things get sciencey in the coolest way. Dottie's bones, like all bones, aren't solid through and through. They're full of microscopic holes, kind of like a sponge. As groundwater seeps through the sediment around her, it carries dissolved minerals like silica, calcite, and iron. This mineral soup throws through every little pore and crack in her bones. Over thousands to millions of years, these minerals crystallize inside, filling the holes and making the bones denser, stronger, and more rock-like. That's permineralization in action, turning real bone into stone without replacing it completely. It's like a skeleton gets a permanent mineral makeover. But here's the twist. Permineralization fossils aren't just bones turned into rocks. The original bone material can still be in there. That's why permineralized fossils are so valuable to paleontologists. Sometimes, scientists can study the microscopic structure of the bones, or even find tiny chemical traces that reveal dinosaurs' age, growth rate, or diseases. One famous fossil of an Allosaurus even had evidence of a broken bone that showed signs of healing, which is rare. This process doesn't just happen to dinosaurs, it works on wood too. Ancient trees can become petrified wood through permineralization, where every cell in the wood is filled with colorful minerals over time. It's like a rainbow rock with tree rings inside, nature's weirdest art project. Now, keep in mind, this fossilization recipe needs just the right mix of ingredients. If the bones dry out, dissolve, or get crushed too soon, no fossil. If the groundwater isn't loaded with minerals, no fossil. If Dottie's bones are disturbed by earthquakes, scavengers, or curious badgers digging a tunnel, yep, you guessed it, no fossil. That's why fossils are so rare and precious. It's not easy to go from rockin' Triceratops to famous museum display. So next time you see a fossil, remember, it didn't just survive time, it survived chaos, weather, microbes, and gravity. Thanks to the rock-solid magic of permineralization, Dottie the Triceratops story didn't end in the mud. It got written in stone. Not all fossils are thick and three-dimensional. Some are as flat as pancakes, and packed with detail you can see with the naked eye. That's thanks to a process called carbonization, where ancient life literally leaves its mark in carbon, nature's most artistic residue. Let's picture a leafy fern named Franny. She's living her best life in a swampy, steamy, carnivorous forest 300 million years ago. She's soaking up sunlight, waving in the breeze, and growing alongside towering horsetails and club mosses the size of trees. One day a storm rolls in, and Franny gets buried under layers of mud, silt, plant debris. It's kinda like being squished in a prehistoric sandwich. With no oxygen and lots of pressure from the gooey settlement, something magical starts to happen. Over millions of years, most of Franny's soft parts, like water and organic materials, are squeezed out of her by all the pressure. Imagine squeezing a sponge until almost nothing comes out except for the darkest stuff left behind. That stuff is carbon, the same element that makes up pencil lead, barbecue charcoal, and even diamonds. In Franny's case, her body gets flattened like a stamp. The carbon inside her gets pressed into a thin, shiny black film that outlines every tiny leaf vein, frond, and frill. What's left behind is a fossil so detailed it looks like someone painted it with ink. Ta-da! That's carbonization. The process doesn't just preserve plants, it can also preserve small animals like fish, insects, and even soft-bodied creatures that don't usually make it into the fossil record. In one famous example, paleontologists found carbonized jellyfish fossils. Yep, jellyfish. Normally these gooey blobs vanish before you can say fossil, but under just the right pressure cooker conditions, they leave behind a delicate carbon ghost. Carbonization fossils are especially common in ancient swamps and low oxygen environments where decay slows down. That's why many of the most incredible plant fossils, like those found in coal beds, are formed this way. In fact, the entire layer of coal is basically a giant deposit of carbonized plant matter compressed over eons. Just like other types of fossilization, carbonization is a picky process. If oxygen sneaks in too soon or if the pressure is not quite right, the organism decays before it can leave its carbon trace. Even when conditions are perfect, erosion, earthquakes, or curious creatures digging around can ruin records. That's why finding detailed carbonized fossils feels like discovering a prehistoric postcard, sealed, stamped, and sent across time. So whether it's a delicate fern or a shrimp-sized insect or a phantom jellyfish, carbonization proves that even the softest, squishiest life forms can leave rock-solid legacies. They may be flat, but their stories are anything but boring. Just gonna jump in here real quick, folks. If you are enjoying this episode, please check out our new book, Beginner's Guide to Fossils. You'll find all the same topics that you have here, plus many, many more. Come check it out on Amazon, link in the description. Imagine an instant deep freeze pressing pause on life, deep freezing creatures for thousands of years. That's the magic of cryopreservation, a fossilized process where ancient animals and plants get preserved in ice, frozen in time. No bones turned to stone, no carbon residue, just skin, fur, muscles, and even bellies full of lunch perfectly preserved thanks to a serious cold snap. Let's meet our frosty friend, Liuba the mammoth. She's trudging across the tundra 20,000 years ago, minding her own business when suddenly, bam! A blizzard barrels in. Temperatures plummet, snow piles up, and poor Liuba gets buried under a mountain of frozen muck. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of decomposing, Liuba's body gets locked in permafrost. That's permanently frozen ground. It's like being trapped in a freezer the size of Siberia. Now, freezing doesn't turn Liuba into rock. Instead, it hits the pause button on decay. Bacteria and fungi, the usual culprits behind rotting, can't do much when they're frozen solid. Her skin stays leathery, her eyes freeze like marbles, and even her tongue and stomach contents survive the icy slumber. Fast forward to May 2007, when scientists dug her up, with great care and many layers of jackets. She's so well preserved that you can see the wrinkles in her trunk. Cryopreservation doesn't just happen to mammoths. It can preserve woolly rhinos, cave bears, bisons, birds, and even ancient humans. One of the most famous examples is Otzi the Iceman, a 5,000-year-old human found frozen in the Alps with his clothes, tools, and even his last meal of grains in his stomach. Basically, cryopreservation gives scientists a time capsule with the label, "Do not thaw until curious." But here's the thing. Cryopreservation only works under very specific and chilly conditions. You need extreme cold, fast burial, and absolutely no thawing. If the ice melts even once, decay races in like it's been waiting backstage. Plus, earthquakes or landslides can ruin the icy seal. That's why these kinds of discoveries are rare and incredibly valuable. They don't just show us what ancient life looked like, they show us how it worked. Of course, there's always the Jurassic-sized question. Could we use cryopreserved DNA to bring these ancient creatures back? You know, like in that movie with the theme song everyone hums when they see a T-Rex. The answer? Not yet. DNA degrades even when frozen, and we'd need nearly perfect samples to even think about cloning. But cryopreserved fossils do get us closer to understanding the biology of extinct animals better than bones ever could. So next time you open your freezer and find an old frozen dinner, just remember, somewhere under the Earth's frostiest frontiers, nature has its own freezer full of ancient life. Thanks to cryopreservation, their stories are just waiting to be thawed out. Imagine being caught in a sticky situation and staying that way for millions of years. That's what happens to nature's most dazzling fossilization method, amber entrapment. This isn't your average fossil in the ground story. Nope, this one's all about golden tree goop, bug drama, and preservation power so detailed you can see the hairs on a fly's leg. Let's set the scene. Way back in the Cretaceous, a tree gets injured. Maybe a branch snapped, or maybe a dino tail swung in too close. Whatever the cause, the tree starts leaking sap. Thick, sticky, sweet-smelling sap. It oozes down the trunk like prehistoric maple syrup. That's when trouble and fossilization starts. A tiny creature, let's call it Izzy the insect, is buzzing around just doing bug stuff. Maybe she's looking for food, maybe she's escaping a predator, but then, splat! She lands on the wrong tree at the wrong time. The sap grabs her leg like invisible glue. The more she struggles, the deeper she sinks. Eventually, she's completely sealed in the goo, along with bits of leaves, pollen, and even air bubble. The tree sap keeps flowing, hardening over time into a golden gemstone called amber. Izzy is stuck, but also saved. Over millions of years, the tree sap chemically transforms into amber, locking Izzy in a bubble of time. Because there's no oxygen and no microbes in there, her body doesn't rot or get crushed. Instead, it's preserved in almost perfect 3D details, wing, antennae, eyeballs, and all. It's like nature was ensuring these insects and small lizards would be around to be perfectly preserved in a museum. Scientists call these amber inclusions, but no matter what you call them, they are always an amazing sight to see. And it's not just bugs. Amber can trap spiders, lizards, flies, tiny lizards, flower petals, and even dinosaur fragments. Yep, actual dino protein bits have been discovered in some amber fossils. In one especially jaw-dropping case, paleontologists found a dinosaur tail with feathers encased in amber in Miramar. That's not just cool, that's sci-fi meets science class cool. Now for amber entrapment to happen, a few things have to go exactly right. The sap has to harden quickly before the trapped creature decays or escapes. It needs to avoid rain, scavengers, and the outside world. Then over time, the sap has to get buried and go through chemical changes, what scientists call polymerization, to become amber. Not all sap makes it. Only the stickiest, luckiest blobs get amber upgrades. While amber fossils don't usually include giant bones or skeletons, they do something bones can't. They show us the soft stuff, delicate wings, skin, and even cells. That's why amber is so important to scientists. It's not just a fossil, it's a crystal clear snapshot to a moment that happened millions of years ago. So next time you see a piece of amber jewelry, don't just admire the sparkle. You might be looking at a prehistoric bug's forever home. A tiny, beautiful accident of nature that got stuck in time and made history. There you have it. Fossils aren't just bones and stones, they're time capsules from a world long gone. From leaves pressed like ancient art to animals flash frozen in ice, each fossil is a message from the past waiting to be read. We explored the four main ways nature pulls off preservation magic: permineralization, carbonization, amber entrapment, and cryopreservation. Together, these fossilization methods give us a kaleidoscope of ancient life, what it looked like and how it moved, even what it ate for dinner. So next time you hold a fossil in your hand or see a display, remember, you're not just looking at a rock, you're looking through a window into deep time. Until next time, stay curious and keep digging. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. Really helps out the channel, helps get our message out there. And if you'd really like to help support the channel, make sure you check out our new book. Again, link in the description. And also we have a web store with all kinds of amazing dinosaur t-shirts, stickers, all that good jazz. So make sure you check that out as well. Thanks again and see you around.